I thought moving into Pine Haven Gardens would be the start of my dream life. But I never imagined that the very people meant to protect the community would become the ones threatening my safety. It all started with a knock on my door, my first day in the neighborhood. After 15 years of running my locksmith business and saving every penny, I finally bought my dream home. A charming Tudor-style house with vaulted ceilings, oak floors, and a custom security system I designed myself. The moment I opened that door and stepped inside, I whispered, "Home, sweet home." I felt proud. I'd done this. But that peace didn't last. While I was unpacking, the doorbell rang. A woman in a salmon blazer, clipboard in hand, stood outside. "Welcome to Pine Haven Gardens," she said with a tight-lipped smile. "I'm Deborah Wilson, HOA president. Just doing my rounds." Before I could even invite her in, she stepped past me into the foyer, eyeing everything. "I see you've changed the locks already," she noted. "I install security systems for a living," I explained. She nodded, then added casually, "We'll need a full set of your house keys. Shed, doors, any gates. It's standard HOA protocol for emergencies and maintenance access." I froze. "I'm sorry, but that's not something I'm comfortable with." Her smile sharpened. "It's in the community bylaws. Compliance is required within 7 days. It didn't feel right, but not wanting to stir trouble on day one, I told her I'd review the documents. That night, I read every page of the HOA covenant. Not one word about turning over keys. Emergency access was mentioned, but only with homeowner permission. No mention of a master key system. The next morning, I woke up to a bright orange violation notice taped to my door. Failure to provide required keys, $50 per day fine. I was stunned. As days passed, the pressure escalated. Another notice, then another. My mailbox was mysteriously damaged. A neighbor named Frank stopped by and quietly warned me, "Don't let Deborah push you around. Most folks just give in. It's easier." Meanwhile, I kept seeing Deborah's son, Tyler, home from college for the summer, lingering outside, watching my house. Once, I even caught him on camera walking by at midnight, inspecting my security system. By day 5, my tires were slashed. I had no proof, but I knew something was wrong. I called a lawyer friend who specialized in real estate law. After reviewing the documents, she confirmed, "This demand is not just unethical, it's likely illegal." Armed with that, I delivered a formal letter to the HOA, citing privacy laws and pointing out there was no key clause in their covenant. The next morning, another violation notice, and Deborah strolling by with mock concern. Such a shame. Pine Haven used to be safe before people started ignoring the rules. It wasn't about rules anymore. It was about power. And Deborah Wilson had decided I was a threat. Then things got worse. 3 HOA board members showed up at my door, accusing me of spreading baseless accusations and violating community safety. I calmly showed them the documents, the laws, the harassment. They squirmed. One admitted, "The key policy is traditional, not officially written, but everyone complies." I asked the obvious, why would anyone hand over keys to their private home? Silence. Later, an elderly neighbor, Grace, walked by with her dog and whispered, "Be careful. The Millers refused to give up their keys last year." 2 weeks later, they had a mysterious break-in. Nothing stolen, but they handed over their keys after that. My blood ran cold. 3 weeks in, my security camera had been spray-painted. Garden lights broken. My business was suffering. I couldn't focus, couldn't sleep. Then, a knock at my door. It was Tyler. "Hey, neighbor," he said with a grin. "Mom asked me to give you this invite to the HOA barbecue." Then he added, "Also, I locked myself out. You're a locksmith, right? Mind helping?" The setup was so obvious, it was insulting. I smiled tightly. "Sorry, I don't do residential jobs anymore." "I don't do residential work," I said, my tone icy, "but I can recommend someone else." Tyler's easy smile twitched. "Right. Well, enjoy the barbecue. Just know most folks that will be wondering why you insist on breaking the rules everyone else follows." He walked off, But the message was loud and clear. The invitation wasn't about hospitality. It was a warning. That night, I didn't sleep. I installed a network of hidden cameras around my property, not the obvious kind like my vandalized doorbell, but discreet, professional-grade ones hidden inside birdhouses, lawn ornaments, even siding panels. If someone crossed the line again, I'd have proof. The next day, I took a different approach. I stepped out of my fortress and walked the neighborhood, introducing myself face to face. Some were polite but cautious. Others shared quiet, unsettling truths. Deborah gets what she wants, a young mom muttered while pushing a stroller. She made us take down our kids' playset because it was 3 inches too tall. A retired couple told me they'd handed over their keys years ago. We winter in Florida, the husband said. It seemed practical for emergencies. But the way his wife looked away said otherwise. By Saturday, the day of the community barbecue, I'd pieced together a pattern. Homes that surrender their keys, few violations, homes with absentee owners, frequent maintenance issues, suspicious break-ins, and plenty of compliance reminders. At the park, the barbecue buzzed with energy. Deborah stood by the grill, directing everyone like a monarch. When she saw me, she waved grandly. "Everyone, meet our newest neighbor," she announced, her voice ringing out. "The security expert who thinks he lives in Fort Knox." Laughter rippled across the lawn. I smiled tightly and found an empty table, where Frank and his wife soon joined me. "Quite the entrance," Frank murmured. "Deborah's in rare form today." Then Tyler appeared, placing a beer in front of me. "Peace offering," he said with a rehearsed smile. "Mom's a stickler, but she means well." "Does she?" I asked quietly, because harassment doesn't seem like good intentions to me. His smile vanished. "Careful. People who don't fit in at Pine Haven tend to have difficulties." Before I could respond, a commotion near the dessert table cut through the air. My elderly neighbor Grace had collapsed. As the crowd swarmed to help, I noticed something odd. Tyler slipping away, heading quickly toward the street. I followed from a distance. He moved with purpose, straight toward my house. Hidden behind a tree, I watched him test a front door, then try a window, fiddling with something from his pocket. He was trying to break in. I held my breath. My hidden porch cam was recording everything. After a few tense minutes, he gave up and jogged back to the park. I arrived just as the ambulance pulled away with Grace inside. "She's okay," Frank said. "Just heat exhaustion. She'll be home soon." Deborah found me near the water cooler. "Where'd you disappear to?" she asked, her tone sugary sweet. "Bathroom." I lied. "Is Grace going to be okay?" "She's fine. Poor timing, though. She was about to tell everyone she's leaving for 3 weeks to visit her daughter." My stomach turned. Deborah had just casually broadcasted that Grace's house would be vacant for nearly a month. She wasn't done. "Oh, that reminds me," she added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "The board voted yesterday. Your fines are being increased to $200 per day, and we'll be placing a lien on your home next week if you don't comply." She thought she had me cornered. As the barbecue wound down under gathering storm clouds, I helped clean up, using the moment to speak to board members one-on-one. The treasurer, a timid accountant named Howard, was especially loose-lipped after a few beers. "I never liked the key policy," he confided. "Deborah says it's for insurance purposes, helps lower our community liability rates." "Is that in writing anywhere?" I asked. "There should be paperwork," he said, "but I've never seen it. Deborah handles all that directly." That night, back home, my phone lit up with motion alerts. Tyler had returned, again, testing my windows in the rain before finally leaving. I didn't sleep. Instead, I spent the night reviewing weeks of footage, HOA documents, and neighborhood chatter, trying to find a connection. By 3 a.m., I had it. There was a clear pattern: homes with absent owners, frequent travelers, vacationers, or those who skipped HOA meetings, were the most often violated. And Tyler appeared on security footage most frequently when those homes were empty. The Wilsons weren't enforcing rules. They were using HOA authority and the so-called key policy to gain access to private homes. Systematically, silently. This wasn't about safety. This was exploitation. What were they doing in those homes? Theft? Something worse? I was still connecting the dots when my phone rang. Grace's number. They broke in. She sobbed from the hospital. While I was gone, I asked the nurse to call home and check on my cat. A man answered my phone and then hung up. My stomach dropped. The police are there now, but I don't want to go back alone. I promised to check on her house myself. As I hung up, another message came through, this time from Frank. Deborah called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow. The topic? Your eviction from Pine Haven Gardens. This has gone too far. I'm with you. Rain slammed against the windows as I made a decision. I was done playing defense. Tomorrow, I confront Deborah Wilson with evidence that would turn the entire community upside down. On my kitchen counter, the pile of violation letters stared back at me. 30 days of fines, nearly $3,000. I hadn't slept well in weeks. Work was a blur. Every creak outside felt like a threat. This had to end. I picked up my phone and did something she wouldn't expect. I called Deborah. Hello. Her voice oozed artificial sweetness. Deborah, it's me. From 1538 Chestnut Lane. I've been thinking about your request for my house keys. A pause. Then, smug satisfaction. Well, it's about time you came to your senses. I'd prefer to talk in person. Tomorrow. She agreed instantly, not even trying to hide her triumph. That night, I drove 2 towns over to a specialty locksmith I used to work with. We spent 3 hours crafting keys that looked perfect, but couldn't actually open anything. Worse for them, using them would silently trigger my upgraded alarm system and mark the intruder's hands with invisible UV dye. They'll never know, I told the locksmith. He nodded grimly. Just be careful. People who want keys that badly usually aren't after anything good. The next day, Deborah arrived in a pristine ivory pantsuit, wearing a smile that didn't touch her eyes. I invited her in. She gave a slow, deliberate glance around my living room, cataloging every item. I reconsidered, I said, placing the decoy keys on the table. But I have some questions first. Her perfectly polished nails drummed on her purse as I continued recording from my pocket. Just to confirm, I said, these are for emergencies, water leaks, fire hazards, that kind of thing. Exactly, she said, rehearsed and breezy. And who would have access to them? They are stored in a secured HOA lockbox, she replied. Only board members can access them. I raised an eyebrow. Including your son. Her smile faltered. Tyler's training in property management. He assists me with certain tasks. So he would have access to my house for emergencies. Of course, she said. It's good for young people to have responsibility. Have there been many emergencies like that recently? I asked. Oh, yes, she replied too quickly. Just last month, we had to do 3 emergency inspections while owners were away. She reached for the keys. I slid them across the table. I hope this resolves my violation status. Consider your slate clean, she said, standing. Welcome to the Pine Haven family. As soon as she left, I reviewed the recording. She had confirmed an authorized access, named Tyler, and admitted to multiple entries while homeowners were gone. I backed up the files and set my security system to high alert. 2 nights later, at 11:42 p.m., the trap was triggered. My phone buzzed, a silent alert. Unauthorized key usage detected at front door. Through my camera app, I watched Tyler fumbling with the fake key. He tried again and again, growing visibly frustrated. Each failed attempt pinged my phone and marked his hand with UV dye. I called the police. Someone's trying to break into my home. I have him on camera right now. Stay safe. Officers are en route, the dispatcher instructed. I kept watching. Tyler moved to the back of the house, testing windows. I heard him trying the kitchen one. My heart pounded. But then, he froze. A neighbor's barking dog must have spooked him. He turned and bolted across the lawn, vanishing into the dark. When the police arrived, I showed them everything, live security footage, the rig keys, and my recorded conversation with Deborah. This isn't the first time, I told them. My neighbor Grace, her home was just broken into while she was hospitalized. An officer frowned. We'll need to check their house. If your story holds, we'll request a warrant. We walked across the street to the Wilsons' home. It was dark. No cars. No lights. Looks like they left in a hurry, one officer said, flashlight catching fresh tire tracks in the driveway. By morning, both Deborah and Tyler had vanished. Their sudden disappearance spread like wildfire through Pine Haven Gardens. And that's when Grace, finally feeling safe, came forward. I was asked to witness her statement. It wasn't just Tyler, she told the police. Deborah's been doing this for years. They had used the HOA as a cover. The key policy wasn't about safety. It was about access, control, exploitation. And now, thanks to some smart locks, hidden cameras, and one very bad fake key, it was over. She demands keys for HOA purposes, then targets homes on people our way, Grace told the detective, her voice trembling. As investigators fanned out across Pine Haven Gardens, an unsettling pattern emerged. 5 confirmed break-ins over the past year, all tied to residents who had handed over their keys. Each incident had been written off as a random crime by Deborah, who chaired the HOA Security Committee and discouraged homeowners from filing police reports. The question still nagged at me. How had they known exactly when to strike? Then Grace handed me a copy of the HOA's vacation notification form. Required by Deborah, it asked for dates we'd be gone, how long we'd be away, and whether we had alarm systems. Everything a burglar would need, served up willingly by trusting neighbors. The investigation was growing, but Deborah and Tyler were still missing. I barely slept, double-checking locks and peeking through blinds every night. Would they come back? For revenge? 3 days later, the police called. "We've tracked their credit card to a motel just across the state line," said Detective Ramirez. "Local authorities are moving in." I held my breath, praying this would be the end of the nightmare. But when Ramirez called back, the news stunned me. "They found a laptop," she said. "Files on every house in Pine Haven. Floor plans, alarm codes, notes on when people come and go, inventories of valuables." I nearly dropped my phone. "How long has this been going on?" "At least 3 years," she replied. "And it gets worse, they weren't acting alone." My stomach turned. Who else? The HOA treasurer, James Peterson, and the security chair, Meredith Taylor. It was a full-blown operation. Now it all made sense, why the board had ignored my concerns, dismissed my warnings, and fast-tracked a key policy. A call waiting signal beeped on my line. Mayor Collins. "We need your help," he said bluntly. "The entire HOA board has either been arrested or resigned. Pine Haven Gardens needs interim leadership until we hold new elections." "Mayor, I've only lived here 3 months. Surely there's someone more qualified." "No. What we need is someone not connected to the old system. Someone the residents already trust. The city council voted unanimously to appoint you as interim HOA president. Will you accept?" I thought about Grace, about all the neighbors who had been violated and silenced, about what this neighborhood could be. "I'll do it," I said. "When's the first meeting?" "Tonight, 7 p.m. Community Center. And just a warning, it's going to be heated." That was an understatement. When I arrived, the community center was packed. People were shouting, some crying, all demanding answers. I stepped up to the microphone, heart pounding. "My name is Alex Morgan. I moved into Pine Haven Gardens 3 months ago. Within days, I was pressured to hand over my house keys by people we now know were planning to rob me." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I'm not a politician. I'm just a homeowner who wants to feel safe, like all of you. I can't undo what happened, but I promise we can rebuild this community together." For the next 2 hours, residents shared stories of unauthorized entries, stolen items, and intimidation. What Deborah had done wasn't just criminal, it was corrosive. It had eroded trust, neighbor by neighbor. A week later, the police showed me the evidence from the motel. Among the stolen electronics and jewelry was something that made my blood run cold, a ring of master keys labeled with addresses, including one for my home. A key I had never handed over. How did they get this? I asked. Tyler Prentice at Locksmith Express, said Ramirez. He made extra copies and kept address records. That's how they got in, even before the key policy. Deborah and Tyler's preliminary hearing came quickly. I watched them enter the courtroom in handcuffs. Deborah's tailored suits were gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit. Her hair, once immaculate, hung limp and graying. When she saw me, her eyes burned with hatred. I stayed back until she looked away. The evidence was damning. My recording, the surveillance footage, stolen property in the storage unit, and detailed burglary records. They were charged with multiple felonies, including burglary, conspiracy, and extortion. Bail was denied. The community finally began to heal. Our first official HOA meeting under new leadership was held in my backyard. No podiums, no power trips, just picnic tables and neighbors sharing food. The first item of business, I said, is a vote on our new bylaws. Top of the list, no HOA officer or member may ever demand or hold keys to any resident's home. The vote was unanimous. After the meeting, Grace approached, holding a plate of cookies. I didn't think I'd live to see this day, she said softly. 4 years. We lived in fear of that woman. Why didn't anyone speak up sooner? I asked gently, her eyes filled with tears. I did. Once. The old board said I was confused, maybe showing signs of dementia. After that, I just kept my head down. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Well, you're the new vice president now, and no one's going to dismiss you again. 6 months later, Pine Haven Gardens feels like a different place. Intimidation has been replaced by genuine community. When the Johnsons' basement flooded, 20 neighbors showed up to help. When Grace needed a new roof, we held a fundraiser. Last week, I installed a little free library by my front porch. The first book inside, A Guide to Home Security. Deborah and Tyler eventually accepted plea deals, 15 and 10 years in prison. The judge ordered them to pay restitution, though nothing could replace the memories stolen with the items. Sometimes, I think back to that moment, when I almost gave in and handed over my keys. That one small act of resistance exposed a criminal operation and brought a fractured neighborhood back together. Yesterday, a young couple moved in across the street. Deborah's old house had been auctioned to pay victims. I brought over a welcome basket and introduced myself, not as HOA president, just a neighbor. As we chatted, the husband asked, "Is it true this all started because someone refused to give up their keys?" I smiled. Sometimes the smallest decisions have the biggest impact. Speaking of which, here's your welcome packet. Right on top, you never have to give your keys to anyone. They both looked relieved, and I realize again, respecting each other's boundaries isn't just about safety. It's the foundation of a real community. The special keys that started it all now hang framed in the community center, under a simple plaque. Sometimes saying no is the key to a better community.